Sydney, Chad Warner, 1 vote. Richmond, S. Bolton, 2 votes. Richmond, T. Taranto, 3 votes.
We're frauds.
It's France Olympics. He decides, I'll break my mate's house and go make a sandwich.
Like you're moving like you're fucking dancer. You look at this cha-cha-cha.
Hello and welcome to another week of the Uneducated Nuffies, and this is the most important week. It's grand final week. It's Brownlow week.
It's the 1 week in September you always remember, and boy, okay, boy oh boy, I'm looking forward to it.
It's gonna be great because 1, no Geelong.
Yes.
2, we get to see Nick Dacos win his first Brownlow.
Shut up. That's enough.
And 3, you get to drink piss. Anyway, how's your weekend, man? I heard there's a lot of drinking of piss.
It was an entertaining weekend of such. I did a lot of hard work.
Lies.
No, I did work very hard on Saturday.
Lies.
Do you want me to tell you what show I worked on?
No.
Well,
They're
then
not paying
don't
us.
say I'm lying. So I worked.
No, until you can prove it.
I'll get the bank statements, but I worked. We went to the pub on Friday night to the Grand, a good local pub we love. A
Thanks for doxing us.
couple of our mates got a bit silly. Not naming people, but
Our mate Enoch.
some people can't handle their drinks.
Yeah, they can't.
Yeah, they can't. And then I just had a nice, quiet night last night.
Yeah, really quiet.
Very quiet.
Any other comment or?
Just a quiet night in Pasco Vale South. How about yourself, John? What did you get up to on the weekend?
Well, we went to the pub Friday night. We watched the footy.
Mm-hmm.
Hardly watched the footy. We watched maybe 10 minutes of the whole footy game. The rest was just dribble.
A lot of dribble.
And then last night I had a nice quiet one. I actually did. Have a nice quiet one.
So you and me both had a very quiet Saturday night. Nice.
No. Anyway, let's move on.
I think before we've got to address the elephant in the room. Why are we dressed up today, Jonty?
I'm not dressed up.
You're wearing a suit.
No, I'm not. I'm wearing a Nike shirt.
Yeah, what's the thing you're wearing on the top of it?
Oh, it's my casual jumper.
Turn it up. We're dressed up this week because it's the best time of the year. AFL, Brownlow, Grand Final, and the longest kick over the era.
What? No, come on. They had marmalade in it last year.
Yeah, and Feb won it again.
But they had marmalade, so it sucked.
Yeah, well, they're not going to be in it this year.
Absolutely, the Crows were right in front of me.
We're going to engage with our mind.
Well, do you think they didn't come to play? Do you think they sat in their cars waiting for the game to start and go out there?
The Swam Army are out in full force, and what a display they had in the semi-final against Port Adelaide. Jonty, care to explain what your opinions are on the game?
Sydney did what they had to do. It started off pretty tight. Port played well at the start, opened up really well. Sydney, though, as soon as second quarter hit, it was a runaway. Sydney continued to just put on the goals. And in the end, it was pretty clear who was going to win.
Yeah, I think Sydney's probably their weakest area of the year. Probably has been their forward line. They haven't had a clear standout forward. They've had a couple of good, decent players here. But seeing the likes of Joel Amartey step up for his second big game for the year. He's had 1 week ignite, but that was a fluke, I believe. But it's good to see that their forward line was working well. Obviously, Amartey kicked 3. We had Papley kicked 3. Logan McDonald kicked 2. So it's good to see their forwards actually creating multiple goals instead of just the one.
Yeah, McDonald, though, did go off injured, so that's going to be a big storyline coming into the grand final. We'll come back to that anyway. But really, when you talk about legacy season of Isaac Heaney, he's continuing to add to it. 24-2. He was just immense in that game. There was no one else really competing with him for player of the match. So, realistically, it's his Norm Smith to lose.
He really sort of that player that's created his new sort of, that he is Mr. September, in my opinion. It was Dusty, obviously, but now semi-retired. But I think he's really just locked in that spot as Mr. September. His work during games are outstanding. His pressure, the way he's able to impact the game really is outstanding. And for someone who, obviously he had a little bit of a down period, but for someone who probably could have won the Brownlow if he didn't get suspended, it's amazing to see at least someone get some reward. Hopefully come the back end, maybe not win the won't win the Brownlow, obviously, but win maybe a Norman Smith or at least the grand final.
Now, on the other end, Port, they looked pretty good at the start, as we said, but they just, once again, took out of the game like they did against Geelong. It's going to be a big off-season coming ahead for them. Charlie Dixon's rumoured to be retiring. Travis Boak probably along with him, and Ken Hinkley is always on the hot seat. And also what's going on around us, Bergman could be leaving, Houston could be leaving. There's so many question marks on what could happen for Port.
I was very surprised to see Koshi come out and say that he's back in Hinkley for another season, because I don't think he proved himself in any real game in the finals. Yes, they obviously beat Hawthorn, and that was a good win, but I don't think they looked convincing that whole final series. So I was a bit surprised at him saying they're going to lock him until 2025, obviously contracted till then. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them look at it and maybe make a decision to change that. But look, there's a lot of moving pieces that are going to go on here at Port that will impact a lot of their season next year, in my opinion, especially if they lose the likes of Bergman or Houston. I think Houston more than ever. Obviously, I think he's got 2 more game suspension. Or it'll be 1.
It'll be 2.
Yeah, because he would have got grand final in round 1, yes.
No, he's got one more.
Is it one more?
One more.
One more. So we'll miss, obviously, round 1. But look, obviously, those Victorian clubs are looking to try and take his talents. And if he does go, it's going to put a lot of pressure on their halfback, because he's not an easy player to replace.
Yeah, well, something you could argue about is Burgoyne had a great final series. If he can return that form in next season, it's likely he's a replacement for Houston. Or Bergman, now back from injury, he's also probably the other side. Farrell also is going to be back from injury. All 3 players can play Houston's role.
Wouldn't you prefer to have Burgoyne play that wing role he's played for most of the year, though?
He looked more impressive at halfback.
He does, but I feel like it's a position, obviously, it's not an easy position to fill, but I find that the wing's obviously a harder position to get a good player compared to a half-back. So, and for someone who's as good as the raw talent he has, I think it's probably a better opportunity to keep him on the wing, grow his skills from there, and develop him into, say, an All-Australian wingman.
Yeah, but at the same time, you also have, Houston, if he does remain, could push him up in the wing. You can move those half foot back. You can move those wings around. You can make them a bit more versatile. You can see how you want to play. I don't think the wing is as important in the Port system as people would make it out to be. You see more Horn Francis stepping up from half forward flank, making an impact. Willem Drew plays on the wing. So it's all stuff that you probably want to look forward to once you know what's going on with the rest of your team.
Correct.
Can I sum up this game with one sound?
Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah, it was a pretty big snore fest. Like, I think they didn't get enough, not enough impact. There just wasn't anything exciting, at least compared to the other game we had this round. There was nothing that you can take from this game saying, "Oh, this was unbelievable! What a passage of play." It was very much like it felt like very much a regular season game that didn't mean much, but obviously it did mean a lot.
Yeah, it didn't feel the stakes that you normally feel with a finals game. You want to see the fight. Like the Port Hawthorn game was a finals game. The Brisbane GWS game was a finals game. The Sydney GWS game was a finals game. Like that's what we want to see, and that was not for a prelim.
Sydney, going back to Sydney, if Logan McDonald doesn't recover from the injury he got, which player do you bring in to replace him?
It'd be hard not to give Cal Mills if he's healthy, just because he's your club captain.
Yes.
He means so much to the club. And Taylor Adams, as much as I feel bad for him missing out last year, 2018, not winning it, like it's realistically, he's nowhere near the level right now.
I think Mills is a bit more of an impactful player compared to Adams, and obviously you're going to feel bad for him. He's played majority of the season, missed out, I think, the final round or something like that, and hasn't got back in. Obviously, terrible run, missed out last year in the grand final. And then he's had issues. Was it last year?
Yeah.
And then 2018. So he hasn't had a good run going into finals. But look, you feel bad for him, but I think you got to go with Mills.
Well, in the also Laddams and I can't remember who else was in front of him, but it was 2 talls in front of him in the line. So I don't think it'll be another small if it's not Mills.
Yeah. Port. Now I know they said they're back in, but surely is this the time to sack Ken? Oh, he's like 4th prelim loss in his career.
Well, once again, you're running off the fact that Port want Josh Carr to take over once everything's like settled. Ken probably is going to be still mentoring him for that 1 year. And Carr's probably not ready yet. He hasn't had the time to work with the group as much as they probably want. I would sack Ken, but I think it's probably not time if they want to go succession plan.
Especially the way, obviously the succession plan is probably their main thing, but you give him that one more season. If he does bring you flag, say, all right, thanks for your service, but we're still going to go on to Josh Carr. But I think you give him that one season, you don't have to worry about paying him out. You're only worried about one contract. And for a club as like Port Adelaide, who have a lot of big name players with big contracts, and back even in the coaches box, big contracted coaches, it's probably just like you just take your losses here, you bring them out for one more season. You'll probably still play finals. They're good enough to still play finals. So I think just give them the 1 year succession plan and then move them on.
Thanks, Basil.
Now, going into the other game, and that was much more of a final. That was the best game all year. Like, no doubt about it, that was the best game all year.
I was unlucky. I wasn't able to watch it because I was busy working. But I think it was, from what I've heard, all accounts, it was unbelievable. I remember looking at my feed, and Brian Myers, he is a magician. He is the Messi of the AFL.
He is quite literally. That soccer goal was unbelievable. But overall, it was just such a scrappy affair. It reminds me of the grand final last year. Last year, the grand final was such a scrappy affair until the final quarter, and then it went really, really open, and then it went scrappy again. It's the exact same in this game. This game was a scrappy affair at the start, got open, scrappy, got open. It was just insane, and there was no goal in the first quarter until the 6 minute mark left. Charlie Cameron kicking his first goal of the game, obviously, but it was just it was such a great game to watch.
I think Brisbane have obviously coming into finals. They had the issue in that fourth quarter, weren't able to play good enough footy, but they've sort of figured it out because that last quarter and a half, even the half, was phenomenal. The ball movement, their entry into their forward 50. Hitting their targets, their accuracy was second to none. They just had it all going. But you look going into, now that obviously won, they're going into the grand final. But losing Oscar McInerney, he obviously popped his shoulder in the second quarter, went back out, tried to play a bit more strapped up, pops it again. He's very highly unlikely to...
It's been ruled out today.
He has been ruled out. But who comes in to replace him? Because that's a big loss for a team who has such a consistent ruckman playing year in, year out.
Well, Darcy Fort probably comes back in. He was the backup, and he is terrible. But he is the backup ruckman. So he's likely the next in line, which Brisbane probably are dreading. Like, Joe Danaher is going to have to play more ruck minutes, and even then, that's not great.
Grundy should take the piss.
Grundy will take... If Reece Stanley took the piss, Grundy will take the piss. It's going to be an interesting debate around that. I think it will be Darcy Fort. I don't remember who the other ruckman is, the younger one. So it's probably unlikely debuts in the grand final. Brisbane, though, one thing that did stick out is their small forwards getting it done in a prelim. Archie, Bailey, Rayner, Cameron, and Lohman all got on the score sheet. And that's ridiculous for a forward line which is so tall normally.
It's sort of been an issue they've had throughout the season. Obviously, years gone by, they've had Charlie, who's been the best small forward in the comp, if not one of. And he's sort of had a little bit of a down year. He hasn't found his form like he has in years gone past. But I think they've hit the form at the right time. And it's not just Cameron as well. It is their other ones. It is Archie, it is Bailey, it is Rayner. So it's really sort of showing a bit more of a promise that if they can't get in the air to your Danahers, to your Hipwoods, that their smalls are going to be there on the ground, winning those hard balls and putting pressure on Sydney's defence in the grand final.
Now, one positive for Geelong in that game was the emergence of Ollie Henry. Now, he had 4.
Yeah.
That is not Ollie Henry. I've watched Ollie Henry for 3 years, 2 out of spite, and he is not like that normally. He was showing up when needed for Geelong. Didn't quite get it done in the end, but 4 goals, 1 for Ollie Henry. As well, Brian Myers is showtime. We were talking about beforehand. The soccer goal. He probably could have had a candidate that's not almost better than Jeremy Cameron's for goal of the year.
Almost, but no.
Almost, but no. He was the highest rated player on the ground. That's all you need to hear about him. He was just unbelievable.
You now understand why Jared Waitley tweeted out that he was the Messi of the AFL, because he is just outstanding at what he does. And that was correct. We all did see that tweet go out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually come back to it today now.
Yeah.
So
Good.
Geelong lost.
Hooray!
Woofs.
question
I think
time.
if they selected Hawkins, they would have won.
Ooh.
No.
No.
I think Shane Neal did enough in the first place because he was at least helping out with the with crumbs and everything.
I reckon you might be onto something there. I think if you did... the problem is Shannon Neal and Tom Hawkins are two totally different players.
But I would say that Tom Hawkins, as cooked as he is right now, would not be the same as having Shane Neal, who's match fit.
Yeah, the problem is he's match fit and he can run more, but his patterns and leading and his marks in the air are one of the best still in the comp, in my opinion. It would allow for something new and obviously allows Cameron to push more up the ground. I don't know if that would have made them, gotten the win, but it would have been interesting to see how it would have transitioned if he did play.
If you're just talking about Hawkins in general, would you think he's, even though he's still a good player in general, we can agree, do you reckon he's just too slow for Geelong's play style now? Like,
Well,
he just doesn't fit into it anymore?
I think there's a reason why he's retiring this year.
Yeah.
Old age, but...
He was already dialing it down last year. The start of this year was awful. He definitely had his worst season ever, and the fact that he didn't make it back into the squad with as much time as he did have should be an indicator why.
And Geelong already play a very slow style of football. It's not like compared to the other teams in the comp, they're one of the not slower teams, but they're in that middle mark. So obviously having him there does slow it even more down. But we'll never know. But it'll be interesting to see if they did play him and if it could have been a difference maker.
Yeah. One more with Geelong. Debo loses count at the selection table by picking Reece Anley over Sam Conning in the ruck.
No, because Sam Koning wouldn't be ruck anyway. I don't think they would go for it yet.
No. You'd have to go Stanley in the ruck. It's because Sam DeConey is too much of a defensive-minded player that I don't think he has the legs to be able to run as around as a ruckman.
You'd have to hope Blitzarves can take more minutes, and Blitzarves at this current point in time is still showing a bit of inconsistency in general, which is something he played his career mostly. I don't think picking DeConing over Stanley was the issue. Maybe you could go DeConing comes in for a different defender.
Well, I don't think Scott is a fan of DeConing either. The way, because obviously he's had a great year, but I don't think he's ever since he got injured. He's come back. He's had a couple of weeks in the VFL. He's had every chance to be picked, but they haven't picked him.
I just think this team was too hot to bring anyone else in.
Or maybe he should be requesting a trade to a team in navy blue to join his brother.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Basil.
On to other actually good teams on Carlton. Back to Brisbane. Is Cam Rayner like the key to Brisbane's chances at winning after what it did in the second half? Like obviously in the first half, nowhere near it. Second half came out, took the piss.
It looks like
So I think he's one of the factors, but I don't think he is the key. I think it's not just the one player; it's all the different little ones. That's what works so well for Brisbane in that game. They had all of their the role players who not obviously stand up much. They all stood up at once, providing so much more run, pressure at ground, that sort of stuff. It just made it all sort of come together and rise. So I don't think Brisbane don't play a way where it revolves around one person. Like they got obviously Neil, who's awesome, but they're very much a well-rounded team where everyone is a good player. They don't really have many weaknesses out there. So it's more just making sure that all of their key players, they're maybe the bottom 5 or 6, who sometimes aren't playing up to scratch what they should be, putting up so they're picking up the slack that instead of it being a bottom 5 or 6, it's now that middle 12, 14, and then their top 8.
No, I actually think Rayner is. And there's a reason why I think he's the X factor. There's something you can notice when Rayner's playing well. There's a noticeable lift. Against Carlton, he was playing really well. You could tell, and that's why they got to such a big lead. Like, in the second half when Carlton started making their comeback, he was able to control the game after that point. I think Zach Bailey last year was threatening to be this X factor, and he never really quite did. Rayner is right now what Zach Bailey was last year. In the finals, he's the X factor.
Now we come to the last game of the year. We're at the G spot, the MCG. Katy Perry's performing.
Oh, God.
Sydney versus Brisbane. Here we go.
Now, there's two key things from this one. First, it's the first grand final that has no Victorian team since 2006. West Coast won by a point against Sydney. Could be some foreshadowing. Second one was that it's been 125 years since these two teams have matched up in a grand final. This was both when they were South Melbourne and Fitzroy. And once again, foreshadowing, Fitzroy by 1 point.
Well, I'm going to touch on the first bit. If it's based off, if this grand final can live up to the hype, well, not the hype, live up to the game that the 06 grand final was, we're in for a treat. Because if you remember those, they were two of the best back-to-back grand finals in years.
Do not discount the 1899 grand final.
Yeah.
That is a classic.
25 to 26, mate. That's a classic.
Yeah, if you look at the scoreboard, you look at each end, there must have been a massive gust of wind to one end.
Really?
Must have. Because like the first quarter, South Melbourne kicked 15-0. Then Fitzroy had 15-1. And then it kept going back and forth.
Hey, mate, didn't you just discount this like 2 minutes ago?
Well, you weren't letting me talk. I was trying to talk about the first game.
Anyway.
And then you didn't let me finish speaking.
Anyway. Let's get more important things. The actual grand final.
Yes.
Now, both teams come into this with injury headaches. So, we were talking about this beforehand. It's McDonald could miss ankle injury, or McInerney is out. It's confirmed out. It will be a different Brisbane ruckman. And this could be the game changer. We were talking about this beforehand. Grundy will take the piss if there's Darcy Ford. Or injured McInerney, if they really wanted to risk it.
They're not going to play
There's also
injured
Henry
McInerney.
Smith, who they're looking at.
Henry Smith? I don't think Henry Smith.
Henry Smith won't
He's
play.
not playing. No.
No.
He won't get a game. But look, injuries, obviously, Sydney probably will try and look to bring in Mills back, bring the captain in for the big game. I think it's always good to have your main skipper back playing. Obviously, McInerney probably going to be for Darcy Ford. But look, grand finals are always a different game. It's a totally different story. But in my opinion, out of the final 4 or 6 teams I had for finals, these have probably been the two best teams we've had this year when they've been in their best form.
Been at their best?
The Giants could be.
The Giants, I think a rematch of the qualifying final would have been much more exciting, just from a personal opinion. But Brisbane have earned their spot.
It's a lot better than maybe like you look at a Geelong or a Port grand final.
Oh, if it was a Geelong Port grand final, I'd be in a snooze fest.
Snooze fest. But look, I feel like it's going to be a great game. We've got some great halftime entertainment. Are we going to see Katy Perry like at the Super Bowl we had a couple of years back?
I don't want to. I'm sick of it.
You ready for just Baby You're a Firework to start blasting?
Can I get it? They're going to do the shark again?
Yeah.
Surely we get Raw. It is Brisbane.
Maybe she sings a Brisbane Lions song.
Maybe they're going to get Jack Rewalt on stage and then he can sing Raw like he did last time.
They should get Birds of Tokyo to remix this song now as well, like it's the West Coast Eagles one.
Oh no. Not the Birds of Tokyo song.
Thank God West Coast don't win anymore, so we don't hear it.
No, I've heard it twice in the last 2 weeks at AFLW. Because they got it for the AFLW as well.
Really?
Yeah, really. But look, who is your X factor going into the grand final on Saturday?
It's Mr. Him, Isaac Heaney. There's nowhere else to look right now. It's all on him. Not to say that Sydney are going to rely on him to be number one. They have Chad Warner, they have Robottom, they'll have Mills if they choose that way. But if Isaac Heaney's on the field, all eyes are on him.
Yeah, I think Heaney is one of the two, in my opinion, that will be the X Factor player. He's proven in finals. He's proven that he's probably one of the best players in the comp this year. But I'm going to put out a little sneaky one here for Brisbane as someone who I'm going to keep an eye on. I think he could be a smoky for the Norm Smith. And that is Josh Dunkley. He gets very underrated at Brisbane. Sydney going to look to tag Neil. He's going to get a lot of the ball. And he's proven in finals. He's 1-on-1. He won the flag in 2016 with the Dogs. He had a really good final series in 2021. I think he could be a massive it factor for them this week.
I just don't know. His effectiveness in this Brisbane side has been taken quite down. And yes, he's underrated. That's the whole point. When you're voting for a player in grand final day, You want to be seeing him visually. Dunkley isn't seen visually in this Brisbane squad right now. McCluggage is, Neil is, Rayner is, Dunkley's not.
Yeah, but I get...
And Lashkov, sorry.
I get what you mean, but I feel like on grand final day, it's a totally different thing. You look at it, Bobby Hill last year.
Yeah, but he's an X factor in general. Yeah. When he is on, it's a different game.
And you look at even the year before, you had Isaac Smith.
Once again, X factor when he's on.
Yeah, when he's on. Josh Dunkley can be the X factor when he's on.
I'm just not sure about that.
I don't
think he's an X factor player. I think he's a consistently good player. And that's my thought process. We have a Doggies fan in the corner, so
I think he's an elite ruckman, as Nick Beveridge was playing at. And I stand by that fact that he is the best ruckman that the Western Bulldogs have ever had. And no, genuinely, I think that if he turns his game on, Josh Dunkley could be an Norm Smith medalist. But I do agree with you that in the current Brisbane Lions setup, he is a solid role player, and I think that on his day, he is more than capable of winning a Norm Smith medal, but I don't think they need him to fill that role to win it.
I think if you go back to last year, he was really good last year. Everyone was thinking, oh my God, this trade has been the greatest thing for Brisbane ever. And it's still been the greatest thing for Brisbane ever. But it's just not anywhere near what we're thinking last year.
Oh, probably the best trade they ever had was probably Buckley, because they got Simon Black out of that.
Oh no, actually no, I think Dane Beams for Jack Crisp.
But looking to this grand final, who do you have winning and why?
It's actually a tough one now, because Brisbane and Sydney are both fourth quarter teams right now. They're able to turn on in the final quarter.
I'm going to give you a start. When was the last time you think Sydney played the MCG this year?
Oh, it would have been early.
Do you want to know?
I'd
So
say round 15.
I'm going to have a guess. Was it round 2 against Richmond?
No, the last time they played the MCG was in round 7 against Hawthorn. April 28th.
That could be a major reason why.
Got beat by 50 as well, didn't we?
76.
Well, do you want to know a stat? The Western Bulldogs played at the MCG 3 times this year. Once in a home final. The last time they played in there before that elimination final was round 9.
Yeah, but Marvel's a shithole, so why would you want to play at Marvel?
Because it's our home ground.
Yeah, but no one wants a 40,000.
I'd rather play at Whitten Oval.
Stone, you have
Mission Whitten Oval.
Yes, get it right.
Stone, you have a contract where your main oval is Marvel. I don't want to be hearing it from you. Anyway.
That's why you...
No, because I was already leaning towards Brisbane in this situation. I really think Sydney will win, but there's something in my head which is saying Brisbane will want to make up for last year, and they've played the MCG more recently, multiple times.
They've just won at the MCG.
Yeah, that's something that will play a factor. Do I think Horse is going to be saying to his team that this is a situation that could happen? No. They'll be training on the MCG-sized fields for the last 3-4 weeks. Is that going to be still as impactful as playing on it? No. I think Brisbane is a really good chance. I want to say Sydney, but my head's saying Brisbane.
I'm the opposite. My head's saying Sydney, but my heart's saying Brisbane. I'm the exact opposite to you, because I think now that with McInerney going down, I think that changes the game drastically, because McInerney is able to probably say half the battle with Grundy, because Grundy is a very good runner. Obviously, McInerney can't run with him, but I think losing a McInerney, who's a key piece of that midfield, he's been a very reliable ruckman for Brisbane for the last couple of years. I think it's going to come too much, and I feel like whoever becomes in to be that backup ruck could play a good half, but I think Grundy will run him out, and then I think Sydney's midfield is just too strong.
I would almost say Sydney's best play this year has been when Grundy isn't involved in actual play. And that's something I think Brisbane could use to exploit. Because Grundy is great on the run. There's no doubt about that. But that's for a ruckman. Like, Tim English is good in the run, but he's not good in the ruck.
Tim English is the shittest ruckman in the AFL. He doesn't win a single hit out. I love him, but he doesn't win it. You compare his hit out to any other ruckman in any game ever, and he's never won a hit out direct. head to head, he's never won the hit out contest.
You
so shit.
You knew exactly what you were doing there.
I
You knew
love
you were
him.
going to rile him up.
I love
you,
him to death.
You put the line out and you caught a fucking great white. You're a little
I
fucking
would
idiot.
sign Tim English every single year to a 10-year deal. But he's a shit ruckman. He can play anywhere else on the ground. I don't care. But he can't rock. He's not big enough. He's not strong enough.
You have done this.
He's shit.
You have done this. You're banned from talking about ruckmans with him in the room.
No, okay, I'm going back to my actual point. Darcy Ford actually played well last year when he was called upon. I don't think Darcy Ford is that much different to McInerney in play style, and he's actually able to go forward and be a solid option. I think there is actually legs to Darcy Ford playing a good game.
My issue is he's not a main ruckman. He's a great secondary ruckman. Well, not great, even great. He's a good secondary ruckman. He's not going to be able to continue the whole game against him. And it means if he can't run that whole game, you're pushing Danaher out of the forward, and it's one less big target you have forward.
But they have Hipwood, who actually played alright.
Yeah, but who's that next
And
one after Hipwood?
Logan Morris.
I just don't think. I think Sydney are going to line up too well. I'm with you. I love the way Brisbane play. I think they deserve to win the grand final. I think they've been. Obviously, they've struggled this year at the start, but they've looked awesome. I want them to win, but I just think Sydney are going to be too good on the day.
I just think there's too much going against Sydney in the fact that they haven't played in Melbourne. They've played in Marvel, and Marvel is much different to playing MCG. You're playing indoors, and you're playing in what is a small field, small crowd, small. It is.
It is.
And so I think it's really going to come down to, can Sydney hold on? Because Brisbane can really exploit the fact that they've played MCG. They know how to play a width.
I just don't think it's going to be the... I don't think the ground's going to be the issue come grand final day.
I think we've seen that in the past. There's a reason why more Melbourne teams win grand finals.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
that's
I
the
just feel
chance.
like since they're both non-Melbourne teams, I don't think it's going to... I think it's going to just null and void itself.
Don't think that's how they're going to work.
I'm going to disagree, but yeah.
I'll give you a final winners prediction and Martin.
I'm going to say Brisbane by 1 point. We're going to go foreshadowing.
Wow.
Brisbane by 1 point.
Sydney in extra time by 7.
Extra time and 1 point. Wow.
I think it's going to be a blinder.
It's going to be a good game.
It's going to be a good game.
Now, at some point last week, just after we finished recording, news dropped that Graham Arnold was going to leave the Socceroos, and it's almost been a week later. Graham Arnold, for one, I believe he should have stepped down just after the World Cup. He did a great job, but his play style infuriates me. I hate it. Most of the people in Australia camp doesn't like it too. He eventually stepped down now, and now a new coach has been appointed.
Good old Tony Popovich. Obviously, he was at Victory last season, brought them also close to winning the title. But look, I think it's a great appointment. Is that a word? Appointment. A great appointment for the Socceroos. Obviously, with Graham Arnold had a great run. I think he was the longest serving Australian Socceroos coach they've had. Don't quote me on that, but I did see that somewhere.
I couldn't remember off the top of my head.
I think obviously everyone looks back to probably his biggest achievement was making it out of the group stage of the World Cup. I think that was everyone was looking at that Socceroos squad saying we're going to finish bottom of the group, and to turn that into a round of 16 game against Argentina was unbelievable. I'd never forget the scenes at Fed Square for that Denmark game. But I think it is time, like you said. I think people had been enough with his play style. And I think the talent we have coming through probably needs a new eyes to guide them and bring us back to success. Obviously, the games against Indonesia and Bahrain didn't help his case, but hopefully he can turn this around and we can get back into winning form, especially with coming up against China in a couple of weeks.
Well, first, I'm going to say Graham Arnold, as I said once again, good coach, just infuriated me. This appointment is not going to be any better, guys. I'm just going to say that now. As a Melbourne Victory fan who had to deal with Tony Popovich for the last 3 years, he plays the exact same. We are going to be infuriated for next however long. And to be honest, this is a funny thing. So I originally had this morning. This is Sunday, by the way. We're recording on a Sunday. I had this morning, Tony Popovich will need a next head coach. About 3 years ago when he signed the contract for 3 years, Victory, my mate and I were having a conversation and we said he'll be signing for a Socceroos in 2024.
Dang.
There was a reason why Popovich wanted to go Victory, because he knew that Graham Arnold would eventually leave around this time. I don't want to have him here. Having had him as our head coach for so long, my God, my head hurts. He took us to a Cup glory, nearly took us to A-League, but his best days are long behind him. His man management is okay, but the play style is so similar to Graham Arnold. It's slow build-up and then counter every other time. It's just going to infuriate me, and I'm pretty disappointed, actually. There's pretty good options out there. We could have got a Saudi Arabia coach, Hervé Renard, which was probably a better option. Otherwise, yeah, Popovich, in my head, is not the great option.
No, fair enough.
Thanks, Basil.
Now, on the other end, Australia Cup action has continued. Right now, as we're speaking, South Melbourne is playing Macarthur, so we'll know the actual result when this edit comes out. But last night, Victory did get it done. Patrick Kisnorbo wins his big first original derby, 1-0. And I'm so glad. I didn't get to go to it, but I'm very glad, because it probably means it's going to be here in Melbourne.
It was awesome to see, especially like a rival we have with Adelaide. We've always had something, but it's good to see Victory get through. We're both Victory fans, very happy. Good 1-0 victory. And as of recording right now, we're at the 62nd minute. South Melbourne and Macarthur are still at 0-0.
Now, I hope South Melbourne make it.
I hope they do.
It'll be so much better than the club, which had 3 players get done in the bloody charge over fraud and illegal betting.
Well, you look, South Melbourne have good history, and they have fans who will come, or don't even travel. They're in Melbourne. They play at Lakeside Stadium. Compared to Macarthur, who fans are inexistent.
Pub team.
Huh?
It's like your pub team.
Yeah.
Did you see he had to get fined the other day?
Why?
So he got his comments about pub team and told me about how it was the worst experience of his life ever coaching at Macarthur. He got fined, I think, $20,000 by I can't remember exactly who, but yeah,
okay.
Funny story.
Yeah, so I think we're both rooting for South Melbourne, because it'll just be the ground of Amy Park, if it is, or it will be in Melbourne. But would they say South Melbourne get through? Would they get a possibility to play at Lakeside Stadium?
No. Facilities, no.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. It's like saying, do you want to go to grand final? Okay, where?
Marvel.
No. Too small. Optuses don't have a choice. Simple as that.
Taylor Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday! Not yet, he hasn't. Beauty! Not. Barnes got 6 at the J! Build the man a statue!
What are you doing here? Oh, just listening to some Spotify, mate. Yeah, just listening to some tunes. Oh.
Kerry Packer created it. Australia are dominating it. We're back with ODI cricket. Australia are winning 2-0 in a 5-game ODI series against England. Hooray! It's good to see us winning.
Well, look, who wants to see us lose? That's number 1.
Yes, that's true.
Number 1 point. Number 2, Travis Head is taking piss.
Oh, his head is just so good.
Yeah, Travis, yeah.
Yeah, Travis. He's taking the piss. And for the first time in a long time, after making a big score, he made some bit of a run. He made 26 in the second game.
He didn't just go out.
He didn't go out for a duck. He did very well. It was a great effort. But look, it was very worrying, especially in the first game when we had both Stark and Hazelwood laid out due to illness. So there's a lot of worry with that. But we did enough with the bat. And in the second innings, I think we made 2. In the second game, we made 270 and we rolled them for like 200. So we did that comfortably. But Australia in some fine form. And this is some interesting news. Well, not interesting news. Interesting stat. Australia are now won 14 games in a row in ODI cricket.
Yeah, it's because we're good.
It's the second longest streak in ODI cricket in history.
Well, who's number 1?
I think it is India, but that was back when they were playing like Pakistan and Bangladesh every second week.
Us in like the mid-2000s.
I think we were up there as well. I think It's West. Let me look.
Anyway, if it's India, then we've got to take it because then we can prove our dominance.
We already made the World Cup and undefeated the whole tournament, so that's enough for me.
Melon of the Week is back once again. As always, if you make this list, you don't want it.
We've got some great candidates this week. There's been some very interesting things. We haven't really had any AFL people this week who've done anything stupid, but we've gone a bit more international.
But there is one, and that one is West Coast.
Yes.
Now, this was kind-hearted. Let's quickly start off. This was put from the right place. So West Coast announced. West Coast have been looking for their coach. We've known that for a while, and one thing West Coast did was talk to what's his name again?
Stephen King.
Yeah, Stephen King. Now,
Currently assistant at Geelong, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So Stephen King had a medical episode the other day. Terrible news. Terrible news. West Coast put out a full-on press release about it.
Bad PR.
Now, it's great that you're putting in the thought, but when did you think, they might take this as he's our new coach? You know, he's only got one more game left at the time. Put him in afterwards. All nice send-off. Why? It was just not much thought process going behind that. West Coast, you're a melon.
And number 4 for our melon this week is Luke Littler. If you don't know who Luke Littler is, he's a professional darts player. I believe he's 16, 17 years old, very young, very talented darter. He's grown onto the scene this year. But he has decided to take this week off from a darts tournament, one of the darts championships. I can't remember which darts.
Wasn't he sick? I think it was Hungary, wasn't it?
It was Hungary. It was one of the dart tournaments this week, and he decided to just miss. And we were like, maybe it's for like his mental health, just trying to take a break. He's won enough this year. He doesn't need to. But then a couple of his fans start to put 2 and 2 together. This week is the week when EA Sports 25. FC 25. Sorry, I'm so big to the FIFA. FC 25 is releasing. And people are thinking, has Luke Littler taken a week off darts to play the new FIFA release?
Well, it's been confirmed now by Luke himself. He was on an Instagram page earlier this week who were pointing it out, and Luke, he just went... he has. Funny enough. He also, to be fair, he is a massive fan. He's been playing pro clubs a lot on Twitch, surprisingly. Which, just play darts, you get more money from that.
To be honest, I get it, but you got to make a living at some point. You're 16, grab it while you can, so you're a bit of a melon here. And then we're going to look at number 3 here, and we're looking at the FIA for the F1. If you haven't seen recently, Max Verstappen, his car's been crap. The Red Bull have not had a car that's been up to scratch for him, and he's not happy about it.
He wasn't.
And he's voiced his frustration on the mics.
Like usual.
As always. He's one of the more vocal F1 drivers on the circuit.
By far.
On the tour. But the FIA have fined him again for swearing.
Not just fined him. They made him do community service.
These guys must be the biggest pricks in the world.
Now, let's quickly also just clarify. This was because he said his car's fucked. Okay, come on. Give the guy a break. He swears all the time.
Is he not allowed to complain about his car? And you want to make him do community service because he doesn't want to complain about his car? So guess what? FIA, you're a melon.
Don't swear.
Continuing on swearing, number 2 is Robbie Slater. Now, this is a thing that you can do a long time ago. Robbie Slater responds to everything on Twitter. Now, if you want to have some fun, just message him and call him a twat or something. Just call him something, and he will respond to you, and have way less people interact with him. He is also good friends with Graham Arnold. He has constantly made fun of the Socceroos instead of Graham Arnold, blaming Football Australia for every single mistake made. And now, he's continued his ways. Now, a few months ago, about 2 days ago, he goes, this is some. We'll have to kind of not say the same thing. So he's talking about the fact that someone shouldn't wish for what they really want. Robbie Slater then got told to shut up. Not quote me for that one. I can put the full tweet there if you want.
We'll share it on the socials.
And then Robbie Slater says, "You absolute grub. You feel better now." These are just all random trolls. Then there's another journalist goes, An award for the least surprising article of the day goes to Robbie Slater, and it's talking about the fact that Graham Arnold had a lack of support and was hated by the Socceroo camp. Robbie Slater. Patrick, a bit unprofessional of you here. Disappointing. Robbie, you're on Twitter. Come on, man. The last one. This was during the talk around today. There's not an article came out. It's all about loyalty. Now, someone goes, sure there's an exception when your job is to cast a critical eye on how your mate does his job, though. In such an important national role, no less. I find professional integrity to be more important than mateship. Now, this was basically pointing fun at the fact that Robbie Slater always never blamed Graham. He thought Graham was the greatest thing on earth. This is his response. That's why you have no friends. The guy responds back. Also why no one respects you. Robbie Slater comes back then. Oh, yes, they do, mate. But you have every right to not. I respect everyone's opinions. Don't drag everyone else to make you feel better.
But that last one, he's brought on himself.
Yes. 100%.
Robbie.
It's pretty bad.
That's woeful.
Robbie, you're a melon.
Yes.
And I doubt we won't. Well, I reckon we'll see you again.
But he's not number one, is he?
Number one's a fun
This one is a story and a half.
So this one also came out right after we finished filming last week. So Hugo Malo, he is a Spanish right back. He's been in Brazil the last few years. Used to play for a team called Celta Vigo. Now, back at Celta Vigo in 2021, they were playing Espanyol. At the end of the game, for some reason they were hanging out with the mascots. Hugo Malo decides that he's going to grope the female mascot. So the bigger part of this is that La Liga is obviously streamed every single game. So he was caught in 4K. Hugo Malo has now, in 2024, finally been done in, I think, a civil trial for now, for $7,000, or euros, sorry, which is pennies compared to what he makes. But the fact is that his reputation's been ruined, and I doubt any Spanish club will take him back now, unless they're maybe like Marseille, Mason. So anyway, Hugo, you're a melon. What on earth were you thinking to grope a female mascot on field?
It's not on. That's just woeful. So Hugo Malo, you are the melon of the week. And now to the final segment we always come to. We never miss it. It's the last one we're going to do for season 2024 of the AFL. It's the Nuffies multi.
Now, we know we haven't hit one yet. We will.
We will.
This one's going to be one. Every week. Yeah, 99% of the shots you miss.
No, 99% of the bets when you stop betting, you miss out on winning big.
No, we just miss 99% and then we win one randomly.
Yeah, and this is the week to win it.
Also, gamble responsibly. There we go. Disclaimers out there.
Sure.
Now, this week, obviously, there's only one game we can choose from. So, Sydney versus Brisbane. Let's starting off. This game's going to be close. We both bought that. So, try bet 1-39 for both teams. $1.28. That's good odds.
Very nice. We're also going to look at some goal scorers here. And Charlie Cameron has found some really good form to the back end of the year. He's really hitting his strides. And we think he's going to kick 2+ goals on grand final day. He's going to show up. Motorbike celebration is going to be out in force. Country Road might be singing. I won't be able to sing Country Road. The fans will be singing Country Road. But for 2 goals, he's paying $1.90.
Now, this man has been showing up in the final series when necessary. Hugh McCluggage. Now, it's only $1.15 for 20 disposals, but in a midfield as stacked as Brisbane's, you'll want to take it.
One of the best taggers in the league, James Rowbottom, has been playing really good form at the moment. 15 disposals, he's hit it most weeks. We're going with it again. He's paying $1.22 for that. Lock it in.
Now, Dane Zorko had an elite game last week. He's had a league game all final series. And for 25 disposals, only $1.46. A halfback flank, he should be able to get that easily.
And then we're going to go to the second last one here. We think we're getting another goal scorer here. Isaac Heaney. He's been proven to have kicked goals throughout this finals campaign. Great form. Great to show up in the big stage. He's paying $1.28 for 1 goal.
And then lastly, one of the small forwards Brisbane have in Kai Lohman. Now, he'll probably get a goal with the way they're playing. And at $1.40, you should definitely take it.
You wrap all those legs up. It comes out to $8.50. Good value here. Win you some money. Celebrate after the grand final and get on the beers.
Thanks, Basil.
Now that's the end of the episode for this week. Episode 7, sorry.
Episode 7, yes.
The Uneducated Nuffies podcast. Stone, we're back here on Saturday.
Yes, we are. We're going to have a very big celebration party. Should we do a live stream?
No. Definitely not.
Why not?
Definitely not.
So easily cancelled.
So easily could go wrong.
Nah, nothing can go wrong.
Doubt that.
Oh well, but it's been a great episode. I think we've done really well. No, fucking the mics over there. I think we had a good episode. It's going to be out. We'll get it out by Wednesday, as we do. We've had to do it on Sunday night as we are having a Brownlow night tomorrow night. Maybe we live stream that.
No.
I'll secretly live stream it.
We can do one when it's just us two, but no.
Yes.
You want to live stream here?
I hope so.
The shiny
deal or
reflection.
no deal.
The shiny reflection. But make sure to check us out on the socials, on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube and Spotify. My name's Ethan Stone.
I'm John T.
Stay Nuffin.